Hello and welcome to The Big Picture. The role of social media in Indian politics in general and elections in particular is something which is still in the nature of speculation. However, in the last year or more, the political parties, politicians and even political analysts are increasingly admitting to the role of social media, and they've all gone on to it with vigor. A joint study by IRIS Knowledge Foundation and Internet and Mobile Association of India, the report of which is now in the public domain, has created a huge interest about the efficacy of the social media. The study, which linked Facebook specifically in the social media and possible vote bank of candidates for the next general elections, has come out with very interesting hypotheses as well as findings. It's claimed that social media, and more specifically Facebook and possibly other such sites, can become the vehicles for targeted campaigning, should wake up the political parties and candidates about the various exciting possibilities in campaigning. This path-breaking study should result in more focus on the social media in the run-up to the next year's general elections and also possibly the next round of state assembly elections at the end of this year. What kind of an impact social media will have on the coming elections, and what are the various possibilities in using them effectively? We will discuss all this today with an interesting panel of guests who are all involved in the social media in one way or another. I have with me Dilip Cherian, founder Perfect Relations, Sanjay Kaul, leader BJP, and on the phone line from Mumbai is S. Swaminathan, founder and CEO of IRIS Knowledge Foundation, which undertook this interesting study along with IAMAI. Welcome to all of you. Other guests will be joining us very soon. Dilip, you saw this report, and today some of the newspapers have also covered it. Isn't it a very interesting thing, or is it something which can pass the scrutiny?
There could be many ways of looking at the social media space, but I think the IRIS report has highlighted that it matters. That's the first. It matters in 160 constituencies. So that's a substantial sum. Don't forget that today urban constituencies account for about 35% of the total number of seats.
Right.
This is saying it accounts for a larger share of voice and possible influence than 35. So we're really now saying that thanks to the mobile, this is penetrating beyond what is conventionally the stomping ground of what internet specialists are talking about, beyond the urban centers. The second thing is that I think that any study like this can always be criticized on the nitty-gritty of it.
Right.
But those are not relevant. To my mind, the relevant thing is it is showing a trend. The second thing is that a lot of political parties today, and we've been talking to them, looking at what they're doing, etc., are looking at social communication, social platforms as a means of broadcasting.
Right.
And I think this is unfair, because social communication and social media platforms should be seen equally powerfully as a means of listening to what the electorate is saying, because that is where
it is politics, not just it should not be just a one-way thing.
And in a sense, what has happened with politics over the last few elections is that you have people on pulpits preaching and not actually absorbing back till after the elections are over. Oh my God, this is what happened. So this is a great study in that sense.
I think you made a very interesting point about absorbing what's happening. We will come to that later, but let's first stick to the study. We are joined in now by Mr. Pawan Verma, a distinguished author and diplomat. Let me go to Pawan. Mr. Pawan Verma, you must have seen this report today in the newspapers, and also if you have had access to the copy of the entire report. Do you think this is an interesting report, and this can change the way political parties communicate to at least a part of their electorate?
See, let me mention three things to you. First of all, the social media is a reality.
Right.
It is intimate, it is immediate, it is interactive, it is accessible, it is democratic.
Right.
Secondly, there is direct evidence, and this report proves it, that it is growing, and growing at probably exponential rates.
Absolutely.
One estimates that it has grown by 30 to 40% in the space of 1 year. There are 934 million mobile subscribers in this country.
Right.
So the second factor is that it's growing. Third factor is the size of the middle class today. Normally computer density in our country is low, and literacy also is a factor, but the middle class today, instead of being a fringe element on the periphery of the political process, today constitutes a critical mass of 190 million people if you take the criteria of any household,
right,
where the monthly income is 1 lakh rupees.
Right.
This estimate says that this 190 million will grow to 270 million in the next 2-3 years.
Right.
Now you are talking of a pan-Indian class which is beyond caste and creed, which has gone to this, had the same education, wants the same goods, reads the same newspaper, watches the same TV, which is also now the same class connected by social media.
Right.
It becomes therefore a very powerful weapon and cannot be ignored anymore by the political class.
Right.
But I'll put just 2 caveats here.
Yes.
First of all, because the social media exists, it should not be reduced by political parties to propaganda. Propaganda in the old sense and social media are antithetical. The social media requires political parties to use it with imagination.
Right.
So that a message is conveyed pithily, and then you can follow up in an interactive way to as per a plan or a program.
Right. Okay. No, I think you made some very interesting points there. But first, let me get Mr. Swaminathan in on this. Swaminathan, it's your IRIS Knowledge Foundation and IAMI which has come out with this report. I think it is a very interesting report. What was it which triggered this study?
Firstly, thank you for having me. I think it all started because we were all curious about what will happen if more people on Facebook get engaged with elections.
Right.
Just curiosity.
Right.
I live in a place called New Bombay, which is part of the Thane parliamentary constituency. The person who won the election last time won by about 45,000 votes.
Right.
And then I looked at the numbers and I said, 450,000 people are on Facebook from this constituency. I said, this man can ignore Facebook only at his own peril. The moment we found that number for New Bombay and for Thane, we said, why don't we do this exercise for the whole country?
Right.
So we took the exercise for the whole country, and I was actually stunned beyond my, I can't tell you how stunned I am, to basically find 160 constituencies as being places where the people who are active on social media can actually have an impact on the elections.
Right.
So it started with something looking at my own constituency and moved on to the whole country.
Okay. I mean, I was going through your report. There are some very interesting points. Let me come to Sanjay Kaul. The BJP has been one of the party which has got on to the, this whole phenomenon of internet and social media and things like that. It is, I won't be wrong if I say you have been one of the first off the blocks on this thing. So, but this report is, don't you think it's a very interesting report? Is this something which your party will take seriously, analyze what this report says?
Look, on the larger point, I think everybody agrees. I mean, I don't think you need a
we don't need a reiteration of the importance of social media.
But I think if you're specifically referring to the report and the claim that IRIS is making about its impact on 160 constituencies, frankly speaking, that is absolutely not relevant.
Not relevant.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely not. Because merely because you have access, and you're confusing the medium and the message. You know, the mediums have existed. It's like saying merely because a particular newspaper has X number of readers, they are going to influence. Of course, they'll influence, but they'll influence the natural trend. The trends don't alter because of the medium. So I think that is a lot of hyperbole, frankly. It may be of interest to somebody who's just setting out and finding out things about it, but the voter votes with his feet at the end of the day. Don't forget that the urban middle class has often been pilloried because they just don't participate in polls. So this is a lot of speculation and completely not really based on reality. But having said that, the fundamentals are still remain. there's a growing number of people who are interacting, and that's what I said. I agree with Dilip. It's not about propaganda. It isn't. That's why. Otherwise, you wouldn't be calling it Facebook. There's interaction. There is feedback, and those are the important key elements that's coming out of it. So when you say that we are first off the block, it's not as if the BJP had basically put an industry in place and we're working on it. The fact was that it reflects the general mood of the people, and it'll be very childish for anybody to assume or even indicate that he has probably the power to be able to influence a lot of people just merely because it's Facebook. So it has to do with the general mood of the public, the trend of the public, or the trend of the thought process or whatever else is happening at this point. And that is why you see a lot of response. And not all of this is fed, cannot be. You cannot industrialize this. It's a lot of people actually saying a lot of the things that they're feeling at this point of time. So you get the impression, of course, that there's a groundswell of support for the BJP.
Okay, I mean, there are a few points which I would like to come back to, but Tehsin, what is your take on this? He's not very upbeat as some of us are about the findings and things. As a political party, I think they have as a political party they have a lot of information which has come up, and they would have their own independent source of information. I can understand, but what is your take on this? On this report especially?
On this report, 160, I agree with Sanjay, 160 numbers is highly
Let us not talk of the numbers.
No, because you spoke about the report.
Yeah.
So the report says 160.
Okay.
It's highly exaggerated. I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because the study does not measure the overlap between Facebook users and voters. So without this report makes no sense, number one. Number two,
no, they do make an overlap. They're talking of the Facebook voters, whether those Facebook voters are voters or things like that.
Number one. Number two, or what is the scientific basis? For example, I was on Facebook in 2009 and I voted 2014. So am I a new voter? What is the scientific methodology that they've used to reach this number for 160? Number two. But most of people on Facebook in 2009, did they vote or no? Is that a scientific data that they have? I'm just giving you a very basic example.
Relevant questions to be raised.
Yes, so how have you reached this number of 160? There is no scientific measure of reaching it. Number one. Number two, what is the basis by which they have reached? What is Facebook's number? 7 crores is what Facebook itself advertises. Now, most Facebook users, and Dilip was with me on a show the other day, and he agrees, 7 crores is a very high, exaggerated number. Probably Facebook itself reflects this number to show its presence in the Indian market. Conventional wisdom says Facebook wouldn't be more than a crore and a half. Amongst that, if you see Facebook, the highest trending people or people who are followed most on Facebook or liked most on Facebook is A.R. Rahman, Sachin Tendulkar and
Amitabh Bachchan,
Shah Rukh Khan. So these are people that have got nothing to do with politics. Within that realm, politics is very, very small. Also, one more thing, Sanjay has a BJP ideology, and I'm keeping politics aside. I completely support the Congress. So people tend to follow and have conversation with like-minded people on Facebook. They don't tend to engage with other. You may have an opinion, but you don't tend to engage. So you follow people that you want. So in any case, that number is split up. So even the ideologists are already on Facebook are following people that they want to follow. So has that been scientifically come? So this report is highly suspect.
Okay, I mean you have raised three raised three relevant questions, and I think Sanjay also had. Let me get Swaminathan in this. Swaminathan, would you like to clarify on these 3-4 points which my two panelists made?
Firstly, the methodology is completely laid out in some detail in the report itself.
Yes, I've seen that.
And that's extremely important. Number two, it's not a question of whether they're all going to come on board. All that I'm saying is, this is a huge community. Ignore them at your own peril. I'm not for a second saying if they will all come to vote. Now look at the impact of social media in recent times. When we had the protests in Delhi, the whole mobilization happened on social media. When Ganeshji drank milk about several years ago, the whole world got to know in like 2 hours, and all of us reacted to it immediately.
No, but there was no social media when Ganesh drank milk.
Facebook was not there, but the community communicated in a certain manner which allowed the momentum to develop. All that I'm basically saying is there is a large community here. You see, it's my basic contention that while New Bombay or Thane parliamentary constituency has a very diverse population, by coming on Facebook, you're already creating a more homogeneous population than what the full constituency is. So the Facebook population is more homogeneous than the full population in Thane parliamentary constituency. So all that I'm saying is, it's a large community. How you communicate with them will affect how they behave. Will they all come to vote? The answer is no. Will a good number come to vote? I don't know. Now, there is the potential for these people in these constituencies to have an impact. Will it happen? The answer is no. If Mr. Kaul wants to ignore it, sure, it's his own peril. If they wanted to ignore it, the BJP and the Congress would not be hammer and tongs, going hammer and tongs in creating domination in the social media platform over the last few days that we have seen.
Absolutely. Quick points. Dilip, I'll come back to you. But I want you both to react to it quickly because we need to go into a break just before that. Yes.
There's a misconception out there. That's what I'm trying to basically tell this young man, that you see, merely because you have calculated the number of Facebook users in a particular constituency, and then you calculate the number of votes that a particular candidate won or lost by, and then you correlate the two. It doesn't work like that. Even that number.
Absolutely. I mean, you're
and adding from where Sanjay Singh, I'll just give him a very specific. Adding from where Sanjay Singh, I'll give him a very specific example. Mumbai 2008, the South Mumbai, which is where the 2611 attacks happened. You don't get a more urban, cosmopolitan, and richer constituency. Richer, as in I'm talking about financially as well as on social media constituency than South Mumbai. South Mumbai is where the 2611 attacks happened. Social media did carry out the revolution, the first sort of revolution against, people were out on the streets against these 2611. Even then, there was a banker who was contesting the election based on social media. She lost her deposit. The point is they don't convert into votes. It's not only social media, it has to be what your party stands for. Whether it's the Congress, the BJP, whatever party, what it stands for is what has to come across.
I'll get Dilip to respond to all these things. He's somebody who can look at it in a more objective manner. But before that, I think we need to go into a very short break. Please keep watching. We'll come back and continue this very interesting discussion. There are several other things which needs to be discussed. Welcome back. We're discussing the possible impact of social media in the forthcoming elections. On the, there was a report today in some of the newspapers about how Facebook and voters, they link that. It's a very interesting study. Mr. Verma, Pawan Verma, I think you wanted to react to it. If you want to do that very quickly before I come to Dilip.
The simple point I'm making is,
yes,
we cannot allow the complete accuracy of statistics to cloud the fact or overlook the fact that social media has become a reality to which all political parties have to become acutely sensitive to.
Right.
Whether it's 160 constituencies, I think the report points to a trend that the impact is increasing. These are early days. You will see the impact, but there is no doubt that the political parties have to take on board this medium because its impact is growing. Now, every person who watches television may not vote, but it does contribute to the forming of an opinion.
Right.
It may not be able to reverse a very strong political trend.
Right. Okay.
But it may either strengthen it or may be able to strengthen the voices against it.
Absolutely. Dilip, I'm sure you want to say whatever has been, especially points made by Sanjay and Tehseen. But my point is that this is a trend, as Pawan Verma has pointed, this is a trend. And you made one very interesting point that earlier that, how political parties should give and take on these platforms, which Sanjay also was agreeing to it. But as far as this report is concerned, it is making a point that there are these possibilities which the political parties should not overlook. Do you agree with that?
I think that's the fundamental point we should take, and I think generally there's agreement on that. Yes. Numbers we'll have agreement on, methodology we'll definitely have disagreement on. But let us reduce 160 by a factor of 2 and say look at 80. My point is that if you look at just Facebook, then you're looking at a much smaller footprint. There is Twitter, and then there's YouTube, and there's a whole bunch of other new social media vehicles which are equally important. So depending on age profile, depending on income profile, depending on interest and enthusiasm in politics, which Tehseen mentioned, people will use different methods. Now, taking something viral is always helpful. Also, please understand that this is not a tool which parties can use to broadcast. It is individuals who communicate with individuals. See,
this is the point.
So social media is one-to-one communication.
I think what if I have read this report properly, if I understood it properly, what it is trying to say is here is an opportunity for political parties for targeted campaigning.
I'm saying more. I'm saying here is an opportunity for political individuals because parties
not just parties, yes, right.
Parties tend to take a kind of macro view, and individuals.
If parties are represented by individuals as spokesmen.
Sure,
Yes.
sure. But I'm saying that
Why can't a party use the media, social media?
Sure.
That's exactly the point.
I'm agreeing with you that a party will use it, but a party can only use it to a limited extent to create traction. Right. It is a smart individual who knows and is a candidate and who's playing on it, is going to be able to use it far more effectively, in my view.
Don't you need a smart individual, Dilip?
You know, this,
Okay, Pawan, let me get the two political party people here.
The thing that you said about 160, factor it down to 80.
Sanjay, let's keep the numbers aside for a moment. I am asking you this simple question. There is this possibility which the report is pointing out that there are some 4 lakh people who are on the Facebook who are potential voters, or possibly most of them have registered themselves as voters. Wouldn't you like to target them specifically? Is it not something? Is it not a possibility which you see it as an exciting possibility?
Look, we're already doing it, so what is the discussion about?
No, the discussion is that here the importance of this...
I'm saying the reason
in Navi Mumbai constituency, there are 4 lakh people on Facebook who says that we are living in Facebook.
That has no relevance at all to the process of election. I'm trying to basically make a point that whether it's 160 or 80 or 2, the principle is wrong. It doesn't work like that. Now, if you're arguing, like I said, there would be no debate if the issue was that yes, indeed, social media is a mechanism that we should be using it, that smart people will use it.
That's no more issue of debate. Everybody is using it.
The only point of debate and contention is in fact the correlation that they're drawing.
Absolutely.
So my point is there is no other discussion.
So there is no correlation, you think?
No, not at all.
May I make a point?
One second, Pawan,
I'll make a point.
Pawan, 1 second, I'll come back to you, Tehsin.
Yeah,
quickly.
You want to ask?
No, the same point which I'm asking. No. Don't you see this possibility? He says that this correlation being made is not.
No, I agree completely with.
So you also think that this correlation is?
It is individual based. How an individual who's a candidate uses it. This medium is very misunderstood unless you personalize this medium.
Okay.
It's a public medium which you need to personalize, and people must feel that they're in touch directly.
Pawan, yes.
Now let me say to you, if there is no correlation, whatever the accuracy of it and the impact can be measured over a period of time, why are political parties using it? Is it a measure of social service?
This question wrong.
Parties use instruments because they believe they make an impact and can correlate with what elections are supposed to do.
Let me answer that for you. In the US elections, both Obama and Mitt Romney were on social media and all kinds of social media. Both had teams working behind. Yet it was Obama who won, not Romney. There's a study done by Pew Research which says 4 out of 5 people on social media did not change the way they voted simply based on social media. People vote based on what they want to vote, whether it's inclusiveness, whether it's economic policy, whether it's foreign policy. They do not vote simply because social media can only propagate your message that much further.
Pawan, let me get the person who has done the study on this. Yes.
He said 4 out of people did not change their mind, but 1 out of 5 did change their mind. If you're going to have a 3-legged election this time and you have Congress, you let UPA, BJP led NDA and the third front, margins are going to be tight. If 1 out of 5 change their mind, there you go. You lost the election or won the election.
This is another debate.
Okay. Dilip, there is, it's very interesting how the representatives of political parties or people who are with political parties, seem to have a very diverse view from what people who are not involved in political parties. Where do you see the problem here?
Okay, I'll tell you where I see the problem. We at Perfect Relations use social media for brands and for corporates.
Right.
That's where our big playing field is.
Right.
There we use it for what I said, 2 things. One is greater brand recognition, engagement with customers, which in this case, in an elections case, is other voters. Okay? So unless you do that engagement all the time, what happens is that anyone who's not engaging, if your competitor, company B, is not engaging and you, company A, are on it all the time, then you have many more chances to engage with your customer. So my view is that it is useful, it can be at the edges influential, if the audience, and that is where Swaminathan's work is to some extent, I think he's taken an effort, are potential voters, if you're engaging with them, here's a new opportunity to engage them more often as an individual.
Yes.
You have to give the credit to a candidate that he will certainly have the intelligence to do exactly what you're recommending.
Absolutely.
Even without our intervention. It is in his interest to communicate with all publics. We use the newspaper, the radio, the channels, the TV, everything. My point is, you cannot make this special. It does not carry any particular credibility. It's merely a medium. So the way it's in the way you use it.
No, but there's a big difference.
Yes.
The big difference is, unlike other medium, and this is something that we have to keep in mind, this is a one-to-one communication with no referees and no filters.
Absolutely.
So that is the
that is exactly the point which you're making.
That's a cardinal mistake. All communication is always one-to-one.
No, but here is a more specific one-to-one which it is in the past we have never had. Yes, Swaminathan.
Romney may have lost the election.
Yes.
But has someone computed whether the margin by which he lost was influenced also by his use of social media?
Okay.
I don't believe we should draw hasty conclusions.
Absolutely.
If Obama was not inclusive, Obama won because he was inclusive. Had Obama not been on social media but not been inclusive, he wouldn't have won in the United States.
Swaminathan, last words to you. I mean, when I went to the report, I saw that there are more studies which you people are planning to do. And in the present report itself is quite limited, and you're planning to do more studies on this, right?
My simple contention is,
yes,
in a situation where you have a parliament where the main party has 220 odd seats,
yes,
the leading opposition has 115 odd seats,
yes,
and you're going to get a three-way election. If people want to ignore this medium as a means of communication, which they are not ignoring, it's at their own peril, number one. Number two, you can argue till the cows come home whether it's 180 seats or 150 seats or 25 seats.
Right.
But when the elections are tight, and you can see today when people draw up this huge chart about seating in Parliament, even at the margin, these 5 seats and 10 seats make a difference.
Right.
Our limited objective is, I was stunned to see the extent to which it can potentially have an impact.
Exactly.
Will it have an impact? Well, if it has an impact, I think this country will be a much better place to live in.
Okay. On that note, I think we'll have to end. But it has been a very interesting discussion where representatives of political parties have their own reservations about it. But the possibility is there out very strongly staring at us. And as Swaminathan points out, it is something which the political parties can take it or leave it. But if they leave it, maybe they will have some problems later, and they will regret what they have done. But it has been a very interesting discussion. This is something which we'll look forward to. More closer study of the report by the political parties may get them more interested in it. Let us keep a close watch in it. Anyway, thanks to all my guests, Swaminathan, Pawan Verma, Dilip Cherian, Sanjay Kaul and Tehseen Poonawalla. Please keep watching. We'll come back with another issue on The Big Picture on Monday. Meanwhile, have a great weekend.